When you fire up Gran Turismo 7 for the very first time, you will arrive at this display settings screen. Now, the strange thing is, regardless of whether I moved the exposure slider up or down, there's no visible change in the brightness at all, not even according to the waveform monitor at the bottom right of the screen, captured using a Canon reference monitor. With the saturation setting, decreasing the slider from the maximum value of 100 would clearly suck the colors out of the picture, so I put it back to the correct setting of 100. But the exposure slider certainly didn't work for me if I went through this display settings assistant process. It turns out that Gran Turismo 7 uses the PlayStation 5's system-wide HDR parameters. For example, if we got out from the game, go upwards and into the settings menu, scroll down and go into the screen and video submenu, then go down and select Adjust HDR. This is the first calibration screen that allows you to calibrate the maximum full frame tone map luminance or MaxFFTML. I will turn on the pixel value checker on my Canon reference monitor for you to see the exact code value. So what we are going to do here is to decrease the MaxFFTML to the lowest value, and we will do the same for the next Adjust HDR screen, which allows you to set the MaxTML or maximum tone map luminance. And on the last screen, we are going to wrongly inflate the minimum tone map luminance or MinTML, so that when we restart Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 and go through all the steps to return to the display settings assistant screen, you can see that the game has adopted the new HDR parameters we have set, resulting in an image whose dynamic range was so compressed, it almost looked monochrome. Conversely, if we go back into the Adjust HDR calibration screens and set the first screen of maximum full frame tone map luminance as well as the second screen of maximum tone map luminance to the highest value of 10,000 nits, and the third screen of minimum tone map luminance down to 0, you will see that these values will be reproduced inside Gran Turismo 7, with the specular highlights and the sun going all the way up to 10,000 nits, which would be overkill for every consumer television out there on the market. In other words, Gran Turismo 7 is an HDR compliant game, which means that in order to get the best HDR picture quality, you will need to engage the HDR setting on your television if available, and set the Adjust HDR values on the PS5 console correctly rather than just inside the game. If your TV doesn't support HDR, then I suggest aiming for MaxFFTML and MaxTML values of around 1000 nits, then let your TV perform its tone mapping. To get 1000 nits, on the first Adjust HDR screen on the PS5, go all the way down to the darkest value, then go up by 15 clicks. On the next screen, do the same thing. Go all the way down, then go up by 15 clicks. On the last screen, go all the way down, because we want 0 nits black. With these HDR parameters set, once we get back into Gran Turismo 7, you can see that the in-game peak brightness will be capped at around 1000 nits, and then your television can take it from there. Of course, if you have a very bright LED LCD television that can reach beyond 1000 nits, feel free to go higher on the first and second Adjust HDR screens on the PS5. Before I move on to demonstrate the best Adjust HDR settings for LG OLEDs, I just wanted to point out that you can indeed adjust the in-game exposure value by skipping past the Display Settings Assistant and clicking on Image Settings. But after experimenting with increasing and decreasing the exposure value which would brighten or darken the picture respectively, I see no reason to deviate from the default setting of 0 unless you are playing in HDR in a bright room, in which case you are doing it wrong anyway. For LG OLEDs with HDR engaged, the clipping point will be around 800 nits, so on the PS5 console, you have to set the first Adjust HDR screen to 14 clicks from bottom, the second Adjust HDR screen also to 14 clicks from bottom, and the third screen all the way to the bottom. This way, the peak brightness in Gran Turismo 7 will reach just above 800 nits, playing nicely with the 800 nit clipping point with HDRG engaged on LG OLEDs. Of course, there are other TV settings you need to adjust on an LG OLED to get the best picture quality for playing PS5 games. So here's my explanation video demonstrating how to do it step by step.